A terrifying tale of a lighthouse's haunted history. The lighthouse towered over the small island like a beacon of hope, a guiding light for sailors in the treacherous waters below. But the keeper knew that it was much more than that. It was a place of darkness and despair. A haunted lighthouse that had claimed the lives of countless sailors over the years. He had heard rumors, of course, but he had dismissed them as just that, rumors. He needed a job, and the isolation of the small island was perfect for him. He had no family, no friends, no ties to the outside world. All he had was the lighthouse and the ghost that haunted it. The first night was the worst. The keeper had settled into his quarters, which were cramped and musty, but cozy enough. He had lit a lantern and sat down to read, but he couldn't concentrate. The wind howled outside, and the waves crashed against the rocks below. And then he heard it. A strange noise like a low moaning sound coming from somewhere in the lighthouse. He dismissed it as the wind, but it persisted. It grew louder and louder until it was almost deafening. The keeper grabbed his lantern and stepped out into the hallway, but he could see nothing. The sound seemed to be coming from all around him. He walked down the hallway, his lantern casting a flickering light ahead of him. The sound grew louder and more distinct until he realized what it was. It was the sound of someone crying, softly and mournfully. He followed the sound to the top of the lighthouse, where the beacon was housed, and there he saw her. A ghostly apparition of a young woman, dressed in a tattered white gown, standing in front of the beacon. She was weeping, her face contorted with grief. The keeper was frozen with fear, but he couldn't look away. The ghostly woman turned to face him, and he saw her face clearly for the first time. It was beautiful, but it was also twisted with anger and pain. And then she vanished, leaving the keeper alone in the darkness. The next few days were a blur of strange occurrences. The keeper heard voices whispering in his ear, felt cold hands on his skin, and saw ghostly apparitions at every turn. He began to realize that the lighthouse was indeed haunted, and that the ghosts were angry and vengeful. He tried to ignore them, to go about his duties as if nothing was wrong, but it was impossible. Those ghosts were too powerful, too real. And then, one night, the keeper heard a sound that chilled him to the bone. It was a scream, a blood-curdling scream, coming from somewhere in the lighthouse. He grabbed his lantern and ran to the source of the sound, his heart-pounding chest. He found himself at the top of the lighthouse once again, where he saw a horrifying sight. A group of ghostly figures, dressed in old sailor clothes, were huddled around the beacon. One of them, a young man with a rope burned around his neck, was screaming in agony. The other ghosts were holding him down, as if trying to keep him from escaping. The keeper wanted to run, to flee from the terrifying scene, but he couldn't. He was frozen in place, watching as the ghostly sailors continued their gruesome work. And then, in an instant, they were gone, leaving the keeper alone in the darkness once again. Days turned into weeks, and the keeper became more and more isolated. He was too scared to leave the lighthouse, too scared to let anyone what was happening. He knew that the ghostly sailors would not let him go, and they were too determined to keep him trapped on the island forever. And so he waited in the state of constant fear and terror. One night, the keeper heard a soft knocking at his door. He was hesitant to answer, but something inside him urged him to do so. He opened the door to find a small girl, no more than 7 years old, standing on his doorstep. She was dressed in old-fashioned clothes, and her eyes were wide with fear. The girl told the keeper that she had been lost at sea and that she had been searching for help. The keeper took her in, giving her a warm bed and a hot meal. But as soon as the girl fell asleep, he knew something was wrong. He heard strange noises, footsteps, and whispers coming from her room. And then he saw it. The ghostly figure of a woman, dressed in a gown, standing over the girl's bed. The keeper tried to grab the girl and run, but it was too late. The ghostly woman had already taken her, dragging her into the darkness of the lighthouse. The keeper could hear the girl's screams echoing through the halls, but he knew there was nothing he could do. The ghosts were too powerful, too determined to hold onto their victims. In the end, the keeper was the only one left. He had lost his mind, his sanity, and his soul to the haunted lighthouse. He spent his days wandering the halls, talking to the ghost, and waiting for his inevitable fate. And when the new lighthouse keeper arrived, he was greeted by a haunting sight. The old keeper, dressed in ragged clothes, his eyes glazed over with madness. The new keeper knew that he had entered a world of darkness, of ghostly apparitions, and of mysterious disappearances. The haunted lighthouse had claimed yet another victim, and it would continue to do so for as long as it stood on that small, remote island.